Chapter 41. Through whom might wisdom rule the world? The world has several times come in sight of a liberal universal empire, under which every form of moral order might be developed by those communities to which it was native or congenial. Yet neither universality nor stability has ever been achieved. And Alexander, with his young genius and courage, stretched universal dominion to the eastern limits geographically possible in that age. Today, with the ease and thoroughness of modern intercourse, the world is positively crying for a universal government, and almost creating it against all national wills. And Alexander was not too Hellenic, not too disrespectful of barbarians, to have been accepted by Picts and Ethiopians, by Chinese and American Indians, if he had conquered them all as their providential overlord. But stability was wholly wanting. Macedon was nothing, and that expeditionary force spread over the continents was not a power capable of controlling them or of recruiting itself. The case of Napoleon was not dissimilar. He had the advantage of representing a revolution, a rational movement that might be welcome and might take root anywhere, and he was not too French, just as Alexander had not been too Greek. But the French Revolution, being intellectual, was speculatively deluded, though Napoleon was not. Deluded, I mean, in that it disregarded realities and waved the flag of ideas, therefore had all the true powers of the world, physical and sanely moral, ranged against it. And it was nothing, and could be nothing, but a convulsion. In this respect, the empire of the caliphs and the British Empire were far more fortunate. The religion of a Muslim prince, or of an English general, whatever it may be for his private conscience, is nothing for the world except a beautiful code of manners and of manly sentiment. It can leave all other religions free and not be itself offensive. On the contrary, to an intelligent observer, it may seem as simple as the word Muslim itself indicates, of submission to fact, to the only real public authority in this world, the authority of things. This is the religion or philosophy proper to a universal power, and if any general domination is to be established and successfully maintained over mankind, it must needs be in the name of physical necessities and physical conditions. The universal government must have no arbitrary moral tradition, no gospel of its own. It must nowhere seem, or in fact be, a foreign government. Here is where the Muslims and the British fail. They possess a sense of superiority, a great indifference, if not contempt, for what is not theirs, and sometimes they seem to wish to impose their manners, if not to preach their ideas. But this is unworthy of a ruler. It renders him odious, and perhaps ridiculous. His subjects may be conscious of having an incomparably deeper and grander religion, an incomparably sweeter and richer morality than he can conceive. His superiority lies in representing and mastering material forces only. That function, when properly exercised, renders him a beneficent governor and physician and engineer. There lies all his authority and all his dignity. If he oversteps those limits, he becomes a fool, and then, very likely, his subjects will rebel, preferring to lose the material advantages of an imperial government to being overshadowed or insulted by a foreign and inferior quality of life. So Islam was finally driven out of Spain and the Balkans, and now the English, almost, if not quite, from Ireland and India. Perhaps the Soviets might be better fitted than any other power to become the guardians of universal peace. In the first place, they are a real power with an autonomous army, navy, and air force, grown out of the remnants of the old Russian armaments. This is the first prerequisite to accomplish anything. Secondly, the Soviets are theoretically international, and might become thoroughly so if extended further. They might become absolutely neutral, in matters of race, nationality, education, and religion. Thirdly, they represent the dictatorship of the proletariat, that is, of the nondescript masses of human beings without country, religion, property, or skill. We are all born proletarians and remain such all our lives long in our physical being and in respect to those radical animal wants, which are alone coercive. The dictatorship is therefore not artificial here, but simply a recognition of the fundamental conditions of our existence. At that level, and in those respects, we live under the control of universal material forces. It would be childish not to recognize them, and irrational not to confront them with foresight and method. Lastly, such foresight and method are foreshadowed in the Soviet doctrine of historical materialism, supposing the Hegelian verbiage contained in this to be discarded. There would remain an explicit recognition of the physical basis of society. In regard to tenure of land and to the management of industry and communications, if the management were competent, universal communism, backed by irresistible armed force, would be a wonderful boon to mankind. Imaginations might still quarrel, but only with the arms of imagination, and the equal and safe possession of one's daily pittance will liberate the mind, where mind existed, for higher flights. But these higher flights are not easy or arbitrary. It is they, more than the material order of life, that presuppose discipline. The Soviets would therefore have to renounce all control of education, religion, manners, and arts. We are proletarians and unwitting communists only in the absence of these things. In their presence, we are all instantly become aristocrats. Everything except the mechanical skeleton of society, all culture, in the German sense of this word, must be left to free associations, to inspiration, founding traditions, and traditions, guiding inspiration. The local attachments of such culture are important, and a just universal government would not disturb them. Each nation or religion might occupy, as private property under the common law, its special precincts or tracts of land, or it might live locally intermingled with other nations and religions, but each in its own home will be protected from annoyance and free to worship its gods with the homage of a complete life, fashioned in their image. This system would also solve the problem of the sporadic individual finding himself ill at ease in his nation. He could secede, or he could be excommunicated without physical penalties, simply reverting to his fundamental human status of proletarian, or by mutual consent he might pass into another nation. And if anyone was born unattached, discovered late his moral affinities in some existing society, that society might receive and adopt him, or he might found a fresh institution with persons of a like mind. All this would certainly not happen without heart-burnings and trials and self-deceptions, not to speak of imposture and enthusiasm run mad. But at least the principle of spiritual wealth and spiritual liberty would be vindicated, and this without any possible encroachment on the material order established beneath.